Hey everybody, it's Mark Wallace. I'm hanging out here in beautiful Medellin, Colombia. You might actually recognize this rooftop terrace where I am right now. I have shot a bunch of Adorama TV videos right here. But this video is not about Colombia. It's actually about something that happened a few weeks ago in the United States. It was my first shakedown trip with the Land Rover. And so you might be wondering, why are you in Colombia talking about something that happened in the United States? Well, that will become very apparent toward the end of this video. Some unforeseen circumstances you'll see in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the main topic of this video, which is the shakedown trip. And first, I guess we need to talk about what the heck a shakedown trip is. Well, a shakedown trip is when you want to go on an expedition or a long overlanding trip, maybe from Arizona to Alaska, something like that, where you're doing something sort of extreme and you need to figure out if the rig that you're taking is up to the task. And so what you'll do is you'll go on a shakedown trip. So you take and you pack your rig exactly like you think you're going to pack it, with all the camping gear, the cooking stuff, the food, all of the things you're going to be taking with you, and then you head out. And you head out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, at least 2 weeks if you can. And then you go maybe 1,000 or 1,500 miles, but you do it in a place that is relatively safe, somewhere close to home. And so in Arizona, you might go up to the north rim of the Grand Canyon or up to Colorado, something like that, which is exactly what I did. You're testing to see if all of the things that were changed on your rig, if you maybe changed some electrical things or added some lights or added a tent or a roof rack or a winch, you're checking to see if that actually works, if there are any gotchas or anything that are going on that you need to fix. You're also checking out to see if the camping gear is adequate, if your first aid kit is working, just working out the kinks. So what you're trying to do on that shakedown trip is to live as if you were actually on your expedition. And then at the end, you'll know where the gaps are. You can fix those in a safe place close to home or at home before you actually head out on a long-term adventure. And so that's exactly what I planned to do. Now, just to catch you up to speed, I think a couple videos ago, I was talking about the front end wobble on the Land Rover. I did get a handle on that. And so just really quickly, I'll tell you that I replaced the tie rod ends and I did a full alignment and a few other things. I have a video coming out about all of that for all you wrenchers out there, people that like to know about all that stuff. But since the front end wobble was finished, I decided I was going to head out. And the good news is I was not alone. I was with a very special person who you'll meet in just a second. And so our trip began in Phoenix, Arizona. We headed north toward Durango, Colorado, and just outside of Durango, there's a wonderful campground. And so we'll start there. I'm hanging out with Valentina Joiu. Valentina is my girlfriend. We met in 2018 when I was living in Madrid. And so Valentina lives in Madrid, but she's from Romania. She speaks 3 different languages. I don't even speak English, and she can speak all kinds of stuff. So Valentina is a painter and an artist, and so she's going to be looking at all the different colors of Colorado and the western United States. Well, I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to explore Colorado and other places in US since it's my first time. And the nature here, it's wonderful, so I cannot wait to use the color palettes for my paintings.
And our paintings are wonderful. You can see those on ValentinaJoiu.com. I've added a link in the description of this video. Valentina, have you ever been camping before?
No.
Have you ever been in the United States before?
No.
Never. So this is quite the adventure.
Yeah. Camping is intense.
Yeah, Valentina is definitely a city girl, so it's fun. So we have over here the LR4. We have this tent. I want to tell you a little bit about this tent really fast, because before we took off on this trip, we got some help from a very good friend of mine. His name is Kessler, and he is founded a company called Adventure Off Grid, and he is an expert in all things overlanding and going out on expeditions where you are totally disconnected from the world. And he has got an amazing turtleback trailer. Fortunately, we were able to stay in his guest house for a couple of days. As we were preparing, he was preparing for a trip, and he loaned us this tent. This is Keith Kessler, Adventure Off Grid. Keith and I have known each other for 9-10 years, something.
Ballpark, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so Keith is helping us plan our trip, looking at maps, and since I'm an adventure traveler, not really an overlander, I have no idea what I'm doing. Keith is the expert at overlanding, as you can see by the rig that he has here. So he's helping us with gear, and with routes, and with how to poop outside.
all the critical stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We'll get you situated.
Yeah, so he's doing a trip of his own, adventure off-grid, with a bunch of turtleback.
Correct.
Guys, right? Yeah.
Up to 40 people. It's going to be crazy.
That's nuts. Totally off-grid, up on the north rim of the canyon. So today he's also getting ready as we're getting ready, and so that's why our rigs are next to each other.
It's prep day.
It is prep day. And so some of the stuff that we're using on the Shakedown ride, I'm going to either have to borrow permanently from Keith or buy it or do something, I don't know. But he found some weak spots in our planning and was able to help us out. And so really that's what this trip is all about. And Valentina painting some amazing paintings based on the scenery that we are seeing here. So day 2, I think this is day 2,
Yes.
Day 1 of Colorado. We are at this beautiful camping area here, and it's by a lake, and we've just really been enjoying the time here. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to zip into more of the mountainous regions of Colorado. So stick around. It's going to be a fun adventure. We are making we're making, what is this? Potatoes?
Potatoes.
With the scrambled eggs.
Yes.
All right, now scramble the egg.
Mix it
Scramble
up.
it. Scrambling. Yummy. We spent a few days enjoying Middle Mountain Campground. We loved the lake and the hiking trails and the solitude. Then we headed north from our campground to Ouray, Colorado. Ouray, Colorado is one of the best places to go for a shakedown trip because it's in a valley and it's surrounded by mountains and fire roads and trails and hiking trails and camping places and remote camping and KOAs and things like that. So no matter what flavor of off-roading or camping you want to do, whether it's very advanced or very simple, the stuff that I did, you can find that in Ouray. One of the goals of the Shakedown trip is to test the off-road capabilities of both the Land Rover and me. And so the LR4 has all kinds of traction control modes and hill descent assist and all kinds of stuff. And so I've never really used it. We're just outside of Ouray, Colorado, and there is a really awesome, pretty steep, semi-steep road that has a few patches of rock crawl and dirt and gravel and all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to go out there and zip up and down that a few times just to sort of get my feet wet and see how it goes. So let's see how it goes. I hope it isn't too difficult. I don't think it will be, but it's my first time. So here it is. This little section of trail was great to learn about the different off-road modes in the Land Rover. I loved how the Rover did all the work for me. And the computers figured out when to lock the diffs, and it consistently got traction to the tires that needed it. The hill descent control was also fantastic. I just took my foot off the pedals and let the truck do all the work. From Ouray, we headed north to Montrose for a day of solid Wi-Fi, and then we turned south and headed to Monument Valley. We've arrived at Monument Valley, and now we're doing the 17-mile loop through all of this. We're not allowed to fly the drone or do any professional photography, so we'll do the best we can with the little Osmo action and stuff that we have. But wow, this is one of my favorite places. Spectacular and very, very windy today. We're gonna try to camp tonight, but I'm not sure it's possible with all this crazy wind. But look at this view. We drove from Monument Valley to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. Unfortunately, it was very, very windy on the rim, and the visibility wasn't very good because there were some forest fires on the south rim close to Flagstaff, and the wind was blowing all of that smoke over the canyon. After a few very windy days and some chilly nights on the north rim, we decided to head south where it was a little bit warmer. We had to take a major detour to get to Flagstaff because of some very, very large forest fires. There were road closures, and there was so much smoke and wind that it looked like fog rolling in San Francisco during the winter. But we finally did make it to Flagstaff. Well, the northern part of Arizona, southern Utah, Colorado, that part of the Shakedown ride is finished. So all the off-roading tests and everything have been completed. The next thing I want to do is check this out and see how the Land Rover does for some basic expedition stuff. And so for that, we decided to turn south, head to Nogales, Mexico, take a quick stop here in Tucson to see San Xavier's mission and some other things. But now we're about to cross the border into Mexico, so I want to see how the Land Rover does at border crossings, if we have to be searched, that kind of stuff. Check out parking if it's too big to zip through smaller city streets, all the kind of stuff you do in a normal expedition, not necessarily overlanding, but more of the kind of adventure travel stuff that I do. We're now in Nogales, Arizona, and we are about to cross the border, and we're literally a few hundred feet from the border. Here it is, right here. This is the border. We're not allowed to film here, so we'll see you at the other side. Hola. We pretty much just drive through. There's no check so far. And we are in Nogales, Mexico. We made it through the border with zero issues. There was really no checks or anything for our identification. The Land Rover stood out like a sore thumb though in Nogales. So one of the things I think would be great is to wrap it with maybe a slate gray or some other color so it's just not so white and bright. And hello, here I am. I'm sweating. Ooh, why stop now? That was delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah, it was some of the best tacos I've ever had. What do you think? Well, Mexico is where things took a turn. Valentina and I realized that we only had about 2 weeks before her flight back to Madrid. So we really wanted to spend that time together and make it quality time. So we intentionally stopped filming just so we could be in the moment. And about a week after we were in Mexico, we decided to go back to Arizona and stay in a nice place. And that's when I woke up in the middle of the night feeling really, really bad. Early the next morning I went, got a test, and sure enough, I had COVID. And so our trip essentially ended there. So we were in a hotel room. I was isolating. I was able to get some Paxlovid from a doctor. And so I was in isolation. And about 2 days after that, it was time for Valentina to fly home. So she went to the airport and we said a very sad goodbye. And then I was in isolation for about 7 days in that hotel room, and I was feeling so nasty, and it was not really the kind of place or the time to make this video, and so none of it was recorded. That's why I am recording this here in Colombia. And I had a trip planned to Colombia, and so right after my isolation, I tested negative, and I flew down here to Colombia, and I was very busy doing the things that I planned to do, and so there just wasn't time to make this video. And so that, I hope, explains why I'm in Colombia on a rooftop making a video about something that happened in Colorado. But what I want to do now is talk about the Shakedown trip and the results of that trip. So first of all, the Land Rover was spectacular. I love the suspension. I love the modes that make somebody that's a newbie to off-roading very comfortable going on some advanced or intermediate trails. I didn't do any rock crawls or anything like Keith and those friends that do. You know, I just did the basics, 101 stuff, but it was fine. Anytime I was in sand or gravel or steep hills, the hill descent assist was fantastic. So this vehicle is just really, really good for me. There were some gaps though, some negatives. The first thing is I didn't have any recovery gear, and so Keith said, hey, you need to get some tow straps, some rapid tracks, you need to get a shovel, you need to get a jack, proper first aid, all that kind of stuff, which I didn't have. And so I was playing it very, very safe because I thought, well, if we do get stuck somewhere by ourselves, there's no way to get out. So that's definitely something I have to add, a winch. I need to be able to extract myself from a difficult situation if I'm in South or Central America or Africa or somewhere. What I have now is absolutely not adequate. The other thing was the camping gear for the kind of expedition that I want to do wasn't adequate either. And so to be able to pull off on the side of the road in limited space in Colombia or Costa Rica, somewhere like that, I'm going to need a rooftop tent. I also want to be off the ground because there's lots of critters and snakes in the places that I'm going. And so on the ground, and the time it takes to set up that gazelle tent, which was only a few minutes, still I want it to be faster, a little bit more secure. And also the kitchen wasn't adequate. And so we were using that little single burner backpacking stove that I use when I'm on my motorcycle, but for 2 people and to do more advanced meals, you know, more than just an MRE in Mongolia. I am cooking my MREs right now. That's gonna be tasty. It just wasn't cutting it. I need a refrigerator, freezer. So that is something that needs to happen. Keith did loan me a battery pack and a solar panel, and it worked very, very well. This is a solar panel here. I'll get you a better view of that. And so this solar panel actually charges this as it's charging my other gadgets. And so totally off grid. This is a Goal Zero solar panel that plugs into this. It's really been cool. It wasn't quite powerful enough for what I need to power all my stuff. So what I'd like to do is get a little bit beefier solar panel, maybe a 200 watt or two 200 watt solar panels, maybe even mount something to the hood of my car, something to keep the battery topped up, stuff like that. So that was another aha moment, the stuff that Keith said, hey, you need to take this. I almost didn't take it. I'm so glad I did because I realized it's invaluable. I need something like that, but maybe even a little bit more powerful. Okay, well, that's the Shakedown trip. The next thing that's happening is I'm going to do all of those upgrades over the next month or 2 or 3, depending on funding, if I can afford that. And then I'll do another Shakedown trip. And then the plan is to come hopefully down here to Colombia and South America and go all the way down to Patagonia. I'm not sure I'm going to make it before summer is over here in 2023. So that's January and February because it's upside down. Summer is reversed from North America. So I'm not quite sure I'm going to make it this year, but I'm going to try. And if not, well, then I'll just explore other parts of South America and it's going to be wonderful. Well, if you want to see videos about what I did to the front end to fix that wobble, the tie rods and all that kind of stuff that's coming out, and also what I'm doing here in Colombia, a little bit more of an explanation of the expeditions and things that I'm planning while I'm here, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell. Those videos are going to be coming to you. And if you're watching this in the future, I've linked in the description of this video to those videos as well. Also, Valentina's paintings, there's a description in the there's a link in the description of this video. All of Adventure Off-Grid, also a link there. And if you want to join the support community, please, I hope that you do and become a little bit more involved in these adventures. I have a link to the support community, my Patreon account, in the description of this video. All right, enough advertising. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.